There are a lot of amazing unique weapons in Avowed, but in this video I will be showing you 10 overpowered unique weapons that you really don't want to miss. But first, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos just like this one, like this video, then subscribe to this channel. Now the first weapon will come from an early game side quest, which will be the Dawn Treader side quest. This quest will be given to you by Ofric, who will be right here on your map in Paradise. The Dawn Treader side quest will send you to a cave to find an expedition team, but once you get there you will meet the Oracle and he will change how you finish this quest. Once you meet him, you will want to do the first few optional objectives until you bring him back the shard. After this, you will need to make sure that you kill the Oracle, and on his body you will find the last Light of Day unique sword. This is a very overpowered unique weapon due to its high base damage and the 2 perks on it, which will make it deal 10% bonus fire damage per swing, and it will heal you for 3% of your health every time you kill an enemy. These perks can also be increased at your camp to make them even stronger, but to be able to do a lot of damage per swing with extra fire damage will help you a lot in hard fights, and being able to heal yourself every time you kill an enemy will also help you stay alive in boss fights, as there is pretty much always weak enemies around in boss fights that you can take out to get some extra healing. The next overpowered weapon can actually be found near where you will go for that Dawn Treader quest, so just head to this location on your map. When you get here, you will find the world boss Octave and a small group of bandits. Now during the early game, this can be kind of a challenging fight, but you will only need to kill Octave to get his unique weapon. So I suggest trying to lure him away from the other bandits to make the fight a lot easier, and once Octave is dead you can then loot the Sheathed in Summer unique dagger off of his body. This is a very strong dagger and it can pretty much carry you through the early levels of the game. It will have a base damage of 20 and it will have a 9% chance to crit, and the 2 perks on this weapon make it do more fire damage when you use it to do a full combo attack, and each hit will deal 10% more fire damage. That alone is very good and it will have a fast attack speed, making it very deadly. But if you want an early game fire melee build, you can also dual wield Sheathed in Summer and the Last Light of Day, which will make you do a lot of fire damage and also heal you when you kill enemies. The next weapon will be found right here on your map. When you get here, you will see this big ogre boss that you can either try to fight or sneak past, but in the cave behind him you will find the unique 7 Strivings 2-handed great axe. This great axe will have a base damage of 64, which is pretty high for the early game, and the perks on it will give you a 15% movement speed buff after you kill an enemy, and the second perk will increase your critical hit chance by 5%. This weapon will hit very hard, and the increased movement speed after getting a kill will help you move around the battlefield easier and get away from enemies that are surrounding you. Next up, you will need to head to this location on the map. When you get here, you will find an ancient memory, and after interacting with it, you will see a short cutscene. And then after you watch that, you can turn around and you will find the Drawn in Winter unique axe in the middle of the water. Drawn in Winter is another very powerful weapon, and you can get it pretty much right away, and it will drop as a level 2 fine quality weapon. It will have a base damage of 54, and the 2 perks on this weapon will make hits done with this weapon deal 10% bonus frost damage, and when you hit an enemy with a power attack, that enemy will explode, and deal frost damage to all other nearby enemies. To get the next weapon, head to this location on your map. and here you will find another world boss named Luandi. Now this is a pretty simple fight, and you can use ranged weapons to take out Luandi and his bandits from a safe distance, but once you defeat him you can loot the unique Krock's Pride pistol off of his body. This is a very strong pistol, and it will be the best pistol that you will find for a while. It will have a base damage of 46, and the perks on it will make power attacks deal high shock damage, and each hit made with this weapon will deal an extra 10% shock damage to your target. Shock damage is actually pretty good in Avowed, and pistols are only one-handed weapons, so you can throw this pistol into your offhand and use any of the previously mentioned one-handed weapons with it, to have two strong weapons and close and long-ranged attacks. I personally really like the combination of Krock's Pride and the drawn-in Winter Axe. The next overpowered weapon on this list can be purchased from the vendor right here on your map in the northern district of Paradise. This vendor will be selling the Long Touch unique bow. The Long Touch will have a base damage of 27 and a 9% chance to crit, and the perks on it will increase your crit chance by 10% when doing power attacks while aiming, and the second perk will increase your damage by 5% when attacking targets with full health. Now bows are very strong in Avowed and they feel very good to use, and even the common bow that you will start with at the beginning of the game is pretty good. But the Long Touch will do more damage, and the perk combination is perfect for starting fights as your target will always have full health. So you will do 5% more damage to them, and if you charge your attack and aim, you will have a 19% chance to crit. Even though you do have to buy it from a vendor, the Long Touch is actually pretty cheap for how good it is. Now the final 4 weapons on this list will be the most overpowered weapons in this video, but they will come from the Emerald Stair zone, which you will get to pretty early on in the game, and you can get these 4 weapons pretty much as soon as you enter the zone. The next weapon can be found right here on your map. When you get here, you will need to interact with this skeleton to start a trial, where waves of skeletons will attack you. If you survive and kill all of the skeletons, you will then be able to interact with the skeleton in the chair to get the unique Horsecutter sword. This weapon is insanely strong. It will have a starting damage of 135, and it will have 140 stun. The perks on it will make your full combo attacks deal high stun damage, and each hit will do 10% bonus bleed damage. The high stun on this weapon will allow you to constantly be able to do high damage dealing execution attacks, which is pretty much a death sentence for any enemy when you're using the Horsecutter, as it will just do so much damage. To get the next weapon, you will need to go to this location on the map. When you get here, there will be some weak enemies that you will have to deal with, but then you can follow where I go on screen now to get to the chest with the Emerald Splitter axe inside of it. The Emerald Splitter is another very strong two-handed weapon. It will have 128 damage to start, and the perks on it will make power attacks deal high poison damage, and you will do 20% more damage to primordial enemies, which is great for the Emerald Stair zone. I really enjoy this weapon due to its impressive damage output and being able to poison enemies, which will keep constant pressure on them, making a lot of fights pretty easy. But usually enemies won't last too long in fights, as you will just hit them so hard with this weapon. Now the next weapon is probably the strongest weapon on this list. To get it, you will need to go to this location and pick up the Steel Resolve side quest. As a side note, during this side quest you will encounter the Triton Family World bosses, and by killing all of them you will get a very good set of unique heavy armor and a trinket. But once that side quest is done, you can return to complete the quest, and then you will be given the one last trick unique musket. This was a very surprising weapon due to just how much damage it can do. The first perk on it will make bullets fired from this weapon bounce off of your target and hit another nearby target. The first target will take high amounts of damage, and the second target seems to take about half of the original damage. And the second perk will make you reload this weapon 20% faster. Usually you can almost one-shot most enemies other than bosses with the one last trick, and the ricochet perk will bring whatever enemy it hits down to around half health. So from that one shot you can almost kill 2 enemies if you charge your shot, and if the enemies are close together. And with the 20% faster reloading, you won't be as slow and can get off a lot more shots than normal. The one last trick is a very overpowered weapon, and it's a lot of fun to use. And the final weapon will come from a vendor in the town in Emerald Stairs, which will be right here on your map. This vendor will be selling the unique Loadstone mace. It will have a base damage of 81, and the first perk on this weapon will make power attacks done with it deal low stun damage to your target, and the second perk will make you do 20% more stun damage in general. So as you can see, this is a really good stun weapon, and it's a one-handed weapon, so you can mix and match this with anything else that you'd like to use. But that stun damage will help you set up those high damage execution attacks once your enemy's stun bar is full. And those are 10 overpowered weapons that you don't want to miss in Avowed. But I would love to know which of them are your favorites in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.